Moto likes you. Here he comes.
Big, I like 'em chunky. I like 'em big, I like 'em plumpy. I like 'em round with something, something.
Also known in the US as Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Ebirah Horror of the Deep holds the dubious honor of being one of the 2 Godzilla films to be featured in an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, which usually can tell you about the quality of the movie before you even see it, although in this case the overall result is better than you would expect. This film was originally conceived as a King Kong project, before Toho decided to make King Kong Escapes instead. But they already had a full monster movie script in hand, so they just replaced Kong with Goji, and this was the result. Right off the bat, we are greeted with a pretty underwhelming film. I mean, it's not bad, but considering that this movie is used to open with this, that is a bit disappointing. But this is pretty much how all Godzilla movies will sound from now on, so you better get used to it. Young man Ryota strongly believes that his brother, given that when his ship disappeared, is still alive. So he and 2 friends, Ichino and Nita, decide to steal a boat to look for him. The boat in which they enter, however, is already inhabited by a gun-crazy Akira Takarada, who in this movie goes by the name of Yoshimura, and at first tries to scare the trio, but soon empathizes with Ryota's cause and at least let the 3 of them sleep on the boat during the night. The next day though, everybody wakes up just to find out that Ryota has set sail, and now all of them are along with him in his quest. During the next days, the boys discover that Yoshimura was not only not the owner of the boat, but he's also a grade A thief. But the 3 of them barely have enough time to react to the discovery, because they are just as soon caught by a massive storm, and, most importantly, by a massive clone. Is that Surf Rock? Somehow, the 4 of them survive being tossed into the ocean during a storm and wash up in a deserted beach. However, they soon find out that the island itself is not as empty as it looks, and is in fact being used as a base of operations by a criminal organization, the Red Bamboo, that smuggles slaves into the place, and no one can escape, because those who try are devoured by Ebirah. Later, the Fantastic Four runs into Dio, one of the slaves brought to the island that managed to free herself from her captors. See, I don't have a problem with them reusing the same actors for every movie, but maybe they could spread them a little bit more between each installment. I mean, they are not even trying to differentiate the characters anymore. Look at this. This is Akihito Harata using an eye patch. Again, they just inverted it. The only reason he's not playing Dr. Serizawa is because this time he's evil. Anyway, while fleeing from the bad guys, our heroes hide in a cave where none other than Godzilla is sleeping. While there, they find out that Dio comes from Infant Island and that Yara, Ryota's brother, is there. So the 5 come to the conclusion that the only way of leaving that hellhole is through the Red Bamboo base, and decide to invade the place. The old moving bus trick. Using his thief skills, Yoshimura gets them inside of the villain's compound. They get further and further into the place.
なんだろうな ボーリングのピンみたいだな。発煙筒だ。役に立つかもしれない。今一本ずつ持とう。
Eventually, they discover that the place is being used to produce atomic weapons. Not intending to find out to what purpose, our heroes decide to leave the spot. While running for their lives, the protagonists get separated, with Yoshimura, Dio, and one of the two interchangeable friends leaving the compound, Ryota getting accidentally strapped to a balloon and being photo-devised into the stratosphere, and the other one of the friends getting captured by the Red Bamboo. He gets thrown into a prison alongside the other slaves, where he learned that most of the work on the island consists of turning a yellow berry into a juice that the villains use to get Ebra away from their boats. So What's His Name has the idea of tricking the Red Bamboo into using an inoffensive juice instead of the useful one. All they have to do is stop using the berries and start using yellow leaves instead. Meanwhile, Ryota lands at Infant Island, where he instantaneously finds his brother. But there is no time for celebration, because his friends are still in danger, so they get on a raft and set sail to the Red Bamboos there. Before leaving, however, the two fairies tell them to build a giant net upon arrival and wait. Back at the island, the other island, the criminals are looking for the heroes that escaped by shooting randomly at the landscape. Yoshimura and the others know they are in trouble, so they decide that the best thing to do is to try to wake up Godzilla, which they plan to do by electrocuting him. They plug the monster to the copper wire Dio found earlier and wait for the next storm. That doesn't take long to appear. Too bad it arrives just as Ryota and Yara are getting to the island, placing them between a rock and a hard place, being the storm the rock and Abra the hard place. But to their luck, the other hero's plan works and Godzilla gets zapped by a lightning and awakes, leaving the interior of the cave to fight the giant shrimp in the most demented way possible. The two brothers survive their encounter with the monsters, and soon rejoin their friends. They all start scouting the enemy's base, but are discovered and have to run for their lives again. They try to hide, Dio gets lost from the others, is cornered by Godzilla, and then has a chance to escape when the Red Bamboo Air Force comes to bomb him. Oh, and Goji fights a giant bird. Like, it comes from nowhere, and it's never mentioned again, but I had to talk about it because it's bizarre, even for the franchise standards. Anyway, Goji decides the Red Bamboo base is in his way, so he will just roll over it. The villains try to use the power lines as an electric fence to stop Godzilla, but guys, it barely gets to his knees. He could leap over it if he wanted to. I know, the base really looks like a model, but that's what you get when the actual buildings they use already look like oversized toys. Seeing that destruction is upon them, it's time for the bad guys to flee, but not before setting their entire base to explode while leaving the slaves to their deaths. Yoshimura and Yara free the prisoners, who then start building the net the fairies ask for. Meanwhile, the Red Bamboo tries to sail past Ebra, which obviously doesn't happen. Then Ebra and Goji start to fight, including underwater, which would be neat if it wasn't obvious they just shot the scene behind an aquarium. Eventually, Godzilla just rips off Ebra's arm and the shrimp flees in terror. Godzilla, you asshole. Finally, Mothra arrives with the two fairies. Idiots. Then our favorite giant insect grabs the net with everyone inside of it and flies away from the island. but Godzilla stays behind without realizing the piece of land in which he's on top is about to blow up. Concerned, our heroes start screaming for him to get the hell out of there. It takes a while, but Godzilla finally gets the message and John McClane's himself into the water.
これであの島も地図から消えたわけ。しかし原水爆の火は消えない。これからは使う人間の良心の問題だな。
You don't fool me with this nuclear warning crap. We know what the franchise is all about.
Time to go.
We better get out of
Okay.
here.
Yeah, what was the name of this movie? Godzilla. I don't know.
Despite what the folks from MST3K might think, this movie is actually pretty decent. The second half drags itself a lot, sure, and the Mozogoji suit is starting to show its age, but overall it's a pretty fun flick, especially the human plotline that really tries to ride on the success of the James Bond films with a story filled with evil organizations and their secret lairs where they do a lot of shady stuff. Maybe that explains the surf rock. Next time, Godzilla, you are the father!